Yo, 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 mic check 1 2 1 2. Hey, y'all let me know if y'all can hear me loud and clear. Y'all give me a thumbs up in the chat if y'all can hear your boy. I'm gonna jump right into this thing in a few moments, but you guys let me know if you can hear me. If you can hear me in the chat, give me a thumbs up. All right. I said thank you for that, Prince Kills. I appreciate you. Give me a thumbs up. So, what's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew. Coming at you guys with another episode of What's the Word Dirty Bird, as we do every Wednesday night during the off season at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I know I kind of popped up on you guys last week. I didn't actually do a show because we did the draft show last Thursday, so I didn't do What's the Word on Wednesday. But we definitely got to talk about the draft. We definitely going to talk about the NFC South and who I think the favorites are, whether our Falcons are the favorites to win our division this year. But with that being said, I do want to say what's up to everybody that's jumping in the chat. So we're going to jump right into this thing because you guys know I like to be pretty prompt, be on for no more than about an hour or so. But we're going to also get you guys questions and things of that nature tonight as well, because I do want to kind of hear what you guys feel about after the draft, the aftermath after the draft, and how you guys feeling about this upcoming season. But with that being said, what's going on, Sherman Wood? You were the first one in the chat this evening. So what's going on, man? I hope you're having a great Wednesday evening. ATL Leo, what's happening, man? I appreciate you joining. Bubba Gump, what's going on, man? I appreciate you. Prince Kells, 89, what's going on, man? I appreciate you letting me know that my sound was on point. Nicholas Dixon, what's happening, man? I appreciate you joining. My boy Big Ant, what's going on, man? Y'all definitely go show Big Ant some love. That's AFN fam right there. D Coleman, what's going on? I appreciate the thumbs up. And you guys make sure you share out this content. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We are currently on the road to 3K. Right now, I'm Juju 2K, but hopefully soon I'll be Juju 3K. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys for your continued support, continuing to share out my content. Like I said, I do want to talk about some draft talk and how you guys are feeling after the draft. Definitely some surprises as far as draft picks for the Atlanta Falcons. But I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and your draft grades for the Atlanta Falcons. Recently, I have been seeing the draft grades coming out from like the NFL Network and all the different podcasts and things of that nature. But I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts on the draft. What do you personally feel about the draft? What's your grades? Personally, I give the Atlanta Falcons an A- for this draft. I did think that they did a really good job of bringing in an explosive playmaker in Bijan Robinson, and then also bringing in solidifying the offensive line. I think they did a good job of solidifying the offensive line. You brought in a pass rusher to add to the rotation in Zach Harrison. You added to the secondary. So pretty much all of the spots I thought the Falcons would hit, they hit, other than linebacker and wide receiver. Those were the two positions personally that I thought that the Falcons might address in the draft. But they didn't address linebacker and they didn't address wide receiver. But I'm very optimistic with this draft class. I think that they did a really good job. I think our scouting team has done a great job with this new regime of bringing in guys that'll be able to come in and help this team immediately. And I think they did a good job of adding depth. But in the chat, I do want to hear from you guys. What you guys think as far as draft grades? What grade would you give the Falcons for this draft? And with that being said, I also want to say what's up to a couple more of you guys that recently jumped in here. Dave, what's going on, man? He says, what's up, Jew? I'm definitely optimistic. Yeah, I'm really excited about this upcoming season. Big Ant says I give them an A. Yeah, I definitely think that they did a solid job. Shouts out to my boy Mad Mike. Y'all definitely go and show him some love as well. He said, Juju, what's going on, man? I appreciate you. Y'all definitely go show Mike some love. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. He's on the road to 10K. So you guys get my boy to 10K subscribers. Let's see. Prince Kales, he says another solid. He gives them a solid A- for the draft. Yeah, I definitely think A-. It could have been an A+ if we would have went with your boy out of Georgia. If we would have went in the trenches, I definitely would have gave it an A+, but I give it an A- with the Bijan Robinson pickup and with the guys that we brought in. If we would have got the DT, the defensive tackle out of Georgia, I probably would have gave it an A+. But I still think it was a solid draft. D Coleman says an A- would have been a nice to add a linebacker in the 4th round. Yeah, I agree. It was still some guys on the draft board like that kind of fell later on in the draft that I was surprised that was still there. Jack Campbell went really, really early. We know that's we know that a couple of us loved Jack Campbell in the draft, and he went really early to the Detroit Lions. But it was some guys that fell, like Drew Sanders fell later on in the draft. I didn't think he was going to fall. The kid out of Clemson, Trenton Sampson, he was another guy that kind of fell further in the draft than I thought he would fall. What's going on? He said, "Let's go Falcons." What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining tonight. Shouts out to my boy Big Ant for becoming a member. I appreciate you, man, joining the Jew Talk Sports membership. Y'all definitely hit that subscribe button for your boy as you come in, and definitely hit that join button if you want me to do some videos and basically have first dibs on me dropping certain videos. You do have some content control when you're a member. So shouts out to Big Ant on becoming a member. I appreciate it, man. Todrick Davis says a B because it was no wide receivers. Yeah, I was surprised that we didn't bring in any wide receivers in this draft. I was really, really shocked by that because we really don't have a lot of depth at that wide receiver position. But I really think that has to do more with what I was talking about with Bijan Robinson being a guy who's versatile, and being that the Falcons have guys like Kyle Pitts, guys like Cordell Patterson. Those guys are, even though Cordell Patterson is listed as a running back, you can use him as a wide receiver. The same with guys like Kyle Pitts, who's listed as a tight end. Really, he's just an offensive weapon or a pass catcher. We really can't call him a tight end or wide receiver. He's like one of those tweeners. So because we got so many guys on this team that can do so many different things, I really feel like the word in this draft and the word of this offseason has been versatility. Y'all continuously hear me say versatility with this Atlanta Falcons team on the players that Arthur Smith and that Terry Fontenot and this coaching staff are going after. They're going after guys that can do multiple things. If you look at just all of the draft picks, just in general that we brought in, Bijan Robinson with the first pick, he's a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a guy that can run the ball. He's a guy that you can use on jet sweeps and things of that nature. We brought in the kid from Syracuse, Matt. That he definitely can also Matt Bergeron. He's definitely one of those guys that also can play the center position and also play that left and right tackle position. So he's multiple. The kid Clark Phillips, the cornerback that we brought in out of Utah, he's another guy that can play in the nickel corner, but he also can play outside as well. So I mean, if you look at this draft class, we have a lot of versatility. Pretty much up and down this draft class, it's all of these guys are versatile. Zach Harrison, the defensive lineman from Ohio State, he's got a guy that's kind of similar to like a Van Ness, a Lucas Van Ness, where he can pretty much play inside. He can play outside because he's like 6'5", 6'6", 270 plus pounds. So I definitely think that this Falcons team did a really, really good job of bringing in depth and also bringing in guys that are super versatile. So I definitely think that it was a solid A-. And shouts out to JBM93. He says Jews always nailing the first pick. Hey man, this time it was really close. Like until maybe a day before the draft, I wasn't sure who the Falcons were going to go after. The last 2 seasons, I was able to narrow down to Kyle Pitts the first year of this regime, and then narrow down to Drake London in that second year of this regime. But this year it was kind of like wide open. It wasn't until I heard the press conference from the head coach Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot that I was able to realize, like, yeah, Bijan Robinson is probably the pick, because they kept saying best player available and they kept saying positionless football. As you seen right here with my boy Big Ant. Yeah, when they kept saying positionless football and basically being, versatile, that's when I kind of knew, like, yeah, they probably were going to draft Bijan Robinson, which was like the day before the draft. I pretty much picked up on, yeah, Bijan Robinson is probably the pick at this point, because they were saying that they were looking for someone to come in and be able to help the team out immediately. And they was looking for somebody that was versatile and that could do multiple things. So that's when I kind of narrowed it down to they probably are going with Bijan Robinson. And I figured that the coaching staff wanted their pick of the litter. Even though guys like the big tackle out of Georgia was still there on the board at the time that the Falcons was picking, I still think at that point, I really think that the Falcons they wanted the defensive end out of Texas Tech. They really wanted Tyree Wilson to be that pick. I think he was the edge rusher that they kind of was targeting. And being that he went to the Raiders, I really think that made it easy for them to go after Bijan Robinson. I think it would have been a little bit of a harder decision to make if Tyree Wilson would have still been available at the time when we picked Bijan Robinson. But being that he went to the Raiders, I think it made the decision a little bit easier for the Atlanta Falcons to go ahead and go with Bijan Robinson. But I really think Tyree Wilson was the guy that they really wanted if we were going to select a pass rusher. And let's see here. Floyd Donnelly says nobody's going to stop our running game. Yeah, our running game is going to be strong, man. Our running game is going to be really, really solid. And what's up to John Sinclair? I appreciate you joining tonight as well. Joseph Thornton, what's good, man? I appreciate you guys, man, joining the chat. Shouts out to my boy Brian Peoples. What's going on, man? I appreciate you tuning in as well. And Sherman Wood says we're going to hit teams this season with so many angles on both sides of the ball. Yeah, most definitely. Like this Falcons team this year, like on offense and on defense, you have a lot of depth. And I really think depth and versatility were like the two major things that this Falcons team kind of focused on in this draft. And I think they did a really good job in this offseason, both on the free agency side and in this draft. I think we did a really good job of bringing in depth and adding, some value to this team. Like Bijan Robinson, like I said, was a great pick. He probably arguably was the best offensive player in this draft. As far as skill position players, wide receivers, running backs, he was like hands down, one of the top guys, I think, in this draft. So I definitely think that he was a great pick and he could be easily a generational type running back. But all of the picks, man, like I said, I'm definitely going to be doing prospect videos or spotlight videos on each one of the prospects we picked up. I already did one on Matt Bergeron, which I think was a huge pickup. And I do think he'll probably be the starter from day one. Going into the season prior to this draft, I thought that Matt Hennessy would be the guy that they probably would go with at that guard position. But now that you got Matt Bergeron, that gives you more flexibility with a guy like Matt Hennessy, where he still can compete for that center position. And you kind of have him where if someone gets injured, you can plug Matt Hennessy right in there. Like we seen last year when Wilkerson went down, they plugged Matt Hennessy right in that left guard position, and the offensive line didn't miss a beat. So I really think adding a Matt Bergeron, because of his strength, his ability to anchor, his ability to be physical in the trenches, him being a really big guy, 6'5", 320 plus pounds, I definitely think that the inside of that offensive line has really been solidified. So I really, really like the moves that the Falcons made in this draft. And let's see, Big Ant says Clark Phillips III was a major steal for us. He dropped way down unexpectedly for me. Yeah, I was surprised to see Clark Phillips drop as far as he's dropped down. To me, he probably has the best ball skills as far as like intercepting the ball and him just, having great instincts. I think he's probably one of the best man-to-man corners in this draft. They talked about him being a little bit undersized at 5'9", but he's a guy that's arguably one of the best corners in this draft as far as instincts, as far as being an overall talent. He's a guy who can tackle well. He's a guy that can play zone. He can play man. He's a guy you can play on the inside at nickel. He's a guy that you can play outside. I really think Clark Phillips was definitely a steal. And that's why I kept saying during the draft, like, some of these teams in the NFL just don't know how to draft. Like a guy like Nolan Smith falling to like 30th to the Eagles with them being able to draft him. It was no way to me personally that a guy like Nolan Smith should have even dropped down to that 30th pick where the Eagles was able to get him. So yeah, I definitely think that Clark Phillips is one of those guys that teams are going to be kicking themselves that they didn't pick him earlier. I really think he was at least a high second round pick, if not a late first round draft pick. Because to me, he was like a top 5 cornerback in this draft. But shouts out to my boy Six Man, 1/3 of the heavy hitters. Y'all definitely go get my boy over to 2K, man. He's on his way to 2,000 subscribers. Y'all definitely go show Six Man some love. He did a breakdown on Bijan Robinson. And why Bijan Robinson would be a blessing for the Falcons. So y'all definitely go check out that video he did on Bijan Robinson. Definitely hit that subscribe button for your boy. We appreciate that. And let's see here. And shouts out to YMOF Jamal. He says, Jude, what's the word? Dirty Bird. What's good, chat family? Yeah, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining tonight as well. But with that being said, like I said, man, I really enjoyed the draft. I really thought that the Falcons did a really solid job in the draft, even though they didn't bring in any wide receivers and they didn't go early in the trenches. I really think that they still did a solid job of bringing in guys that'll be able to help this team immediately. Both Bijan Robinson and Matthew Bergeron. I think that those guys both will be could be immediate starters. And even a guy like Clark Phillips, he could easily be our starting nickel this season. It wouldn't surprise me if he was the starting nickel corner and could easily push to be the outside corner if Jeff Okudah, doesn't pan out for any reason. You have a guy in Clark Phillips who can also slide to that outside corner and play that number 2 corner opposite side of AJ Terrell. So I definitely enjoyed the draft and thought that this scouting team, our scout team did a really, really good job of bringing in these guys. But with that being said, I do want to go ahead and jump in to the main topic of the night, which will be, are the Falcons the team to beat in the NFC South? I kind of want to tackle that tonight and get you guys' thoughts on how do you guys feel about the NFC South now that the draft is over with, now that we see where pretty much most of the teams stand as far as free agency is passed, the draft is passed. Now we're getting ready for the NFL schedules to drop. How are you feeling about the Falcons in the NFC South? We know that, NFL teams always state in the beginning of the season that the number 1 goal or your first goal is to win your division, because that automatically, gets you into the playoffs and gets you a home game in the playoffs. So how are you feeling right now about this Atlanta Falcons team after this draft? Do you think that the Falcons are the team to beat heading into this new season? Personally, I do think that this Falcons team is the team to beat in the NFC South, with guys like Tom Brady retiring and the Buccaneers kind of getting on the old side with guys like Mike Evans, who's been in the league a really long time, Chris Godwin on their team. Those guys were really banged up last year and have kind of been banged up the last couple seasons, with them kind of turning over their roster on the offensive side, them getting rid of Leonard Fournette, now getting Baker Mayfield, now who is their starting quarterback. I really feel like the Buccaneers team is kind of in shambles. And then teams like the Saints, with Derek Carr, I definitely think that Derek Carr is a solid quarterback, but I feel like the Saints are kind of in shambles as well because they're in cap hell. Like, they didn't have a lot of money. I think they did a pretty good job in the draft of bringing in Brian Breezy and some of the guys that they brought in on the defensive line, but their team is kind of in shambles, and we were kind of able to weaken their team during free agency with us being able to grab Caden Ellis and grabbing David Onyemata. I really feel like we kind of weakened the Saints defense. So I want to get you guys' thoughts. You guys let me know how you feeling about the NFC South. Do you guys think that the Falcons are the favorites right now? Personally, just on paper, the game still has to be played between those white lines. But just this is my early thoughts on after seeing the draft and just looking at each team's roster. I really feel like the Falcons are the favorites. To me, the team that did the best in the draft, other than the Falcons in the NFC South, personally, I think is the Carolina Panthers. To me, they're going to be a very interesting team outside of the Atlanta Falcons, with them getting Bryce Young, with them getting Jonathan Mingo at that wide receiver position. This offseason, them bringing in guys like Thielen, Adam Thielen, and DJ Chark. I really feel like they have a loaded roster with the Carolina Panthers, but I do think that it's going to take a full season because Frank Wright is their new head coach, and they fired their coach from last year. I really think with them turning over their roster and also turning over their coaching staff, it's going to take time for them to get that coaching staff's philosophy. And that's kind of the reason why I think the Falcons are the favorite heading into this season, being that we went 7-10 the last two seasons. And, we still have our coaching staff intact for the last two seasons. I really feel like the players that are on this team, the core players on this Atlanta Falcons team, like the Grady Jarretts, the AJ Terrells, and the guys that we've had on this roster the first two seasons with Arthur Smith, I really feel like these guys are prepared. They know what to expect out of this scheme. And it's basically like these guys are going to hit the ground running. Where I feel like with the Carolina Panthers, with the New Orleans Saints, and with the Buccaneers, I feel like all three of those teams are kind of in flux right now, where they're still trying to, establish their identity. They're still trying to establish, their schemes and stuff like that. Where I feel like the Falcons kind of have already, at least on the offensive side of the ball with Arthur Smith, we kind of have established that we're going to be a physical team in the trenches, and we're going to try to beat teams up in the trenches. So I really feel like this Falcons team kind of going to, set the tone this season in the NFC South. And I kind of feel like we have a head start on a lot of the other teams because we've had this regime here building that culture for the last 2 years, where it's going to take time for these other teams to catch up. So with that being said, I said a mouthful. You guys let me know how you feeling about the Atlanta Falcons. Do you think that we're the favorites to win the South? Personally, I definitely think we are. I really think that this Falcons team this year, even before seeing the schedule, which I think drops next week, I think it's like May 11th or something like that, I really feel like this Falcons team is the favorites. I think they'll win 10 plus games this season. I think 10 games is the minimum. So us flipping the script, going 7-10, 7-10 the last two seasons, I think at the minimum, barring injuries and barring, anything catastrophic happening, I really feel like this Falcons team this year will go at least 10-7. That's just my, setting the bar as low as possible. I don't see this team, not able to win at least 10 games this upcoming season. If everything pans out, if guys stay healthy, with the depth that we've added, with the experience that these guys have gained in this scheme the last 2 years, with us bringing back Caleb McGarry and keeping Chris Lindstrom and keeping that, solidifying that offensive line, I really think that this year could be special for this Falcons team. And Brian People says, I'm not saying we're going to win the division, but what we do got a shot for being a playoff team because the NFC is a toss-up. Eagles and 49ers and maybe the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions. And then who else? Yeah, most definitely. That's what I kind of feel about it as well. And I know you guys don't, I'm not going to do it. I know you guys don't want to hear Super Bowl, but just hearing what Brian Peoples is stating, I really feel like this Falcons team has a really good chance of definitely being a playoff team and possibly making a deep playoff run, depending on how many games we win. Like Calais Campbell, who basically said that he thinks that this is like a 12 to 13 win team when he was on one of the podcasts. I kind of agree with Calais Campbell, and that's why I kind of put it I kind of put it at or set the bar at 10 wins. And then I think anything else is icing on the cake. But I really think that this Falcons team is going to win the division. I really think that this team is going to definitely run the South. And let's see here. Big Ant says we are the NFC South. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we own the NFC South. I think after this season, we're gonna definitely win the division. Mike says 11-6 for sure. NFC Championship. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Look, I don't want to say Super Bowl, but this team, man, it kind of puts me in the mind of like 2016, like with the Calais Campbell pickup, with him being optimistic about it, excuse me, and with him coming over from the Ravens. I really I definitely think that this team is going to be dangerous. So NFC Championship wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's crazy as that sound. I was having this same conversation when I was talking to my pops, and I basically told him. He asked about will the Falcons get to a Super Bowl, and I basically said, like, you win your division if you're the 1 seed or one of the teams that get the bye. You really only have to win the divisional playoff game, that divisional round, and then you're in the NFC Championship game. So you only got to win one playoff game. If you're a wild card team, you got to win 2 games to get to the NFC Championship game. So as crazy as that sounds, I could definitely see it. Like, I definitely agree with you, Mike. I could definitely see it, man. I don't want to say Super Bowl because it's too early for that, but hey, I wouldn't put it past this team to get to the NFC, um, to the NFC championship. And Johnson Clay said, I think we win every game played against the NFC South rivals and then a few others. Most definitely. I don't know if we're gonna win every game. I would be hyped if we do, but we know how, for whatever reason, no matter the records, division games is the hardest ones to win. For whatever reason, we always play the Saints down to the wire. It seems like every year for the last couple of years, we split with the Carolina Panthers. And when the Buccaneers had Tom Brady, they swept us like 2 years in a row. So I definitely think this year we have a chance to sweep the division. If we sweep the division, then we probably be a number 1 seed. So I hope we sweep the division, but I wouldn't put it past this team to, like, I think the Saints are a team that could split because we seem to always split with them. Carolina, I could see us splitting with them as well. And then the Bucks, I really think the Bucks are going to be like the weakest team in the division. For whatever reason, I just have a funny feeling that the Buccaneers are the weakest. To me, they're the weak links of the division. So this year, I think that they're going to struggle. But I definitely think that it's definitely going to. I definitely think that the Falcons are going to win the division. Itio Leo says, I say Super Bowl in New Orleans, Jew. All right. Hey, is the Super Bowl in New Orleans this year? What year is it? Is it in New Orleans this year? If it's New Orleans this year, that would be crazy. But yeah, I definitely, like I said, I wouldn't put it past this team. I don't want to start saying Super Bowl and I start sounding like a Cowboys fan when they always say every year they're going to the Super Bowl. So first we got to win our division and get to the playoffs. But NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, if they get into the playoffs, anything is possible. And if we win a division or win double digit, get double digit victories, I definitely could see this Falcons team making a deep run, especially the way that the style of football that we play that travels in the wintertime. When you run the football and you play well in the trenches on defense, a defense and a running game travels in the playoffs. So I definitely can see this team, doing some big things in the playoffs this year. And let's see here. And Bubba Gump says 16 to White Freeney, 23 Calais Campbell. Yeah, I really had that funny feeling. Like this year, I really, really like the signing of Calais Campbell. Adding him with Grady Jarrett, him being one of the locker room leaders, which I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be able to galvanize the defensive side of the ball and galvanize a lot of guys on this team because Calais Campbell has won a ton of football games in his career. And I really feel like he's excited. You heard a couple of weeks ago him saying that Aaron Rodgers tried to recruit him to the New York Jets, and he just had that funny feeling about the Atlanta Falcons. So I really think that, if Calais Campbell, states that he watched tape with Arthur Smith on Desmond Ritter and watched tape of, this Atlanta Falcons team from last year, he was really optimistic about this Falcons team. I'm really optimistic as well. And just seeing us win 7 games the last 2 years with no cap money and really hardly no talent, like we really was playing with a lot of young guys. We didn't really have any depth whatsoever. I really feel like this team, because they got more experience and we have more depth, I really feel like this team is going to be dangerous this year. Let's see here. So John St. Clair says, are there anyone left from the Super Bowl teams other than Grady and Jake? No, I think that Grady and Jake are the only guys left from that 2016 Super Bowl run, if I'm not mistaken. I think at this point, everybody else from that Super Bowl team is gone. But you have, one of the leaders on the defensive side of the ball from 2016, and then one of the leaders on the offensive side of the ball. And just look at what position those guys play. As I said, that the trenches are where the Falcons are kind of focusing on. You got Grady that's in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball, and then Jake Matthews on the offensive side of the ball on the offensive line. So that just kind of goes to show you that this Falcons team is focusing on the trenches and playing that physical style of football. But I really feel like this Falcons team is going to play similar to what we've seen with the Philadelphia Eagles last season with Jalen Hurts. You've seen them kind of build this roster around Desmond Ritter, and they gave him pretty much all of the pieces for him to succeed this year. So we're going to find out this season. Like Desmond Ritter, I really think is going to surprise a lot of people with his play because we've given him all of the pieces around him to succeed. If you want to find out if a quarterback is a franchise guy, I really feel like that was another reason why the Falcons went ahead and drafted Bijan Robinson, is they wanted to give Desmond Ritter, our young quarterback, a chance to develop, and they wanted to give him weapons, give him as many weapons for him to succeed, and that's what we're seeing. So I definitely think that this is going to be a big year for Desmond Ritter. And he says, I got season tickets again. I feel something special is coming. Yeah, most definitely. I definitely think this is going to be a special season. I really think that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on the Falcons because we haven't been in the playoffs the last 5 years. So a lot of teams, are not paying the Falcons, no mind, especially the contending teams for the last couple years. You're hearing the same teams, the Eagles, the 49ers. Those are the teams that everybody talks about, the Cowboys. You're really not paying much attention to the Atlanta Falcons. Like I said, similar to 2016, where nobody gave the Falcons a chance to get to the Super Bowl, and everybody kind of just turned a blind eye to that 2016 team, man. We got all the way to the Super Bowl, should have won it. So I definitely have that funny feeling that this year, this team could do something special. And Josh says, our schedule is soft. We play the Colts, Commanders, Texans, Packers, Bucks, Panthers, Saints at home. Only tough home game is the Vikings, who have no defense. Yeah, I completely agree. As far as a soft schedule, I don't like to call any schedule soft because year in and year out, we know teams get better, or a team could have been trashed the year before, and then the next year, they're one of the best teams in the league. So just looking at the schedule based upon last year's teams, we can easily look at those teams from last year and kind of, base it off of last year that those teams weren't good, like the Colts, like the Commanders, like the Texans. But similar to the Falcons of last year, if you look at our team, we've kind of turned over our whole roster. If you look at the starters from last year and look at the roster this year, the guys that we brought in, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to have a lot of new starters. Guys like Calais Campbell, guys like Jesse Bates. We brought in a lot of guys, Jeff Okuda. Like we pretty much remade our whole defense. So I don't want to call the schedule soft because we haven't played those teams yet, and those teams have had a lot of turnover. Like the Colts, they drafted a quarterback, they added some pieces. The Texans drafted the second, they had the second and the third pick in the draft, so they added a lot of pieces as well. The Packers, they did lose Aaron Rodgers, but to me, Jordan Love didn't look bad in those games that he played last year in Aaron Rodgers' absence. So I wouldn't call the schedule soft, but I think that the Falcons have a chance to win a lot of games next year. But you can't base it off of last year. And ATL Leo said the Super Bowl is in New Orleans next year, 2025, Jew. Okay. So somebody tell me what city the Super Bowl is in this year. Because I'm not too sure. But I hope we get there this year. Hope we be in the Super Bowl in 2020, 2023, 2024. And he says, do you think CP84 will be at tail this year? I'm assuming he's saying tail back. Most definitely. I definitely think that CP will still play running back this year. I think he's going to be moved all over the place, though. I think you can see him a little bit more at wide receiver this year, but I also think you're going to see him in the backfield at times. And he's just one of those guys that's going to be an offensive weapon. Like at this point, you really can't label any of our guys wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. We got guys that can do multiple things. If you look at any of the guys that we have, Jonnu Smith is a guy who can line up everywhere. Outside, tight end, slot. Same thing with guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts. The same thing with guys like Bijan Robinson and Cordell Patterson. Both of those guys, or all four of those guys, are pretty much interchangeable. You can use them pretty much anywhere, other than lining guys up in like the backfield to be like a running back. I don't think you're gonna line Kyle Pitts up in the running back like as a running back to actually hand him the ball, but we have guys that are versatile. We've seen Jonnu Smith with the Tennessee Titans, them literally throw him a toss and him take it to the house. So we definitely got the versatility. But I definitely think CP still play running back this year. And I definitely think that he'll stay more healthy this year because you've added Bijan Robinson. You have Tyler Algier that's kind of going to take some of those carries and some of that burden off of Cordell Patterson. So hopefully later on in the season, he's still fresh, where the last couple seasons he got injured during the season. And Josh says our base run D is going to be elite, especially if we get Goldman, Anyamata, Campbell, and Grady. Yeah, most definitely. And you still got to throw TQ in there as well. A lot of people forgetting that Taquan Graham is coming back. So our defensive line is loaded. Our defensive line is probably the best in the NFC South. Our defensive line, our rotation is crazy. We got so many guys. I don't even know how they're going to be able to cut this roster down based off of how many guys is on that defensive line right now. And Delayed J says, I need Campbell coaching up Zach Harrison since there's a similar style of play. Oh, most definitely. I think Calais Campbell is going to be one of those guys that's going to coach up everybody on the defensive line. Like everybody can learn from a veteran like a Calais Campbell. Even a guy like Grady Jarrett, he can learn from a guy that almost has 100 sacks in his career. I think Calais Campbell is like one sack away from having 100 sacks, which is usually like the milestone for defensive linemen, for great defensive linemen. If you hit that 100 sack milestone, that's huge. And Calais Campbell is one of those guys that I think is going to be a future Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. I think he'll put on a gold jacket. So I definitely think that Calais Campbell is going to be one of those guys that's going to be able to coach up everybody on that defensive line. But definitely he's going to take a guy like Zach Harrison under his wing. Both him and Grady Jarrett is going to be able to teach a lot of these young guys so we have a thing or two on the defensive line. And let's see here. And Travis, he says, do you think we did enough on the D line? Love the Clark Phillips pick. Most definitely. I think we are going to be all right on our defensive line. If you look at the way that the Saints rushed the passer last season, they were one of the top teams as far as getting sacks on the quarterback. And their highest sack total was 8.5 sacks, which was Cam Jordan. And they had, I think, like 40-something sacks, if I'm not mistaken. So they do kind of like, sacking the quarterback by committee. And that's something that I've been saying since I've had my channel. If you guys go back, so when I very first started my channel, I believe in you having strength in numbers. When it comes to rushing the quarterback and rushing the passer, you got to have a gang of guys that can get you between, 5 and 10 sacks a season. If you got, a group of guys that can get you between 5 and 10 sacks in a year, I prefer that over just one guy that can get you 20 sacks, because what if that one guy that can get you 10 to 20 sacks get injured? Similar to what we seen last year with the Rams with Aaron Donald. Like, you got to have multiple guys that can rush the passer. And if you look at what the Las Vegas Raiders did, I love what they did with the pick of picking up Tyree Wilson. Even though he didn't come to the Falcons, adding him on the opposite side of Crosby, the guy I love over there, um, with the Raiders, adding him on the other side of Max Crosby. I really think that him and Tyree Wilson are going to be able to feed off of each other. And now it's going to be really, really tough to focus in on Max Crosby, because now you have another pass rusher that can turn out to be one of those great pass rushers in Tyree Wilson. So I think we did enough. But I really think that the Falcons are going to use, rushing the passer by committee. So it's going to be multiple guys. I mean, you have over, I'll say maybe about 7 or 8 guys that can rush the passer. Like, if I could just think off the top of my head, you got Lorenzo Carter, AK, Calais Campbell, Grady Jarrett, Caden Ellis, Eddie Goldman at times can bring pressure from the middle of the defensive line. Onyemata. Like, you have so many guys, D'Angelo Malone. Like, you have so many guys that can rush the passer that this team I really feel like the key number for this Falcons team is like 40 to 45 sacks. I really think this year this team can get between 40 to 45 sacks in this season. I really think we can get to 40. The key number I'm watching is 40 sacks. I think this Falcons team can get 40 sacks based off of how many guys that you actually have that can rush the passer. So I definitely think we did enough as far as in free agency. And then you have the guys last year that you're still developing. And plus, Ryan Nielsen as our defensive coordinator is a guy who kind of uses his linebackers as pass rushers as well. So a guy like Caden Ellis, who plays linebacker, who can play inside linebacker or outside linebacker, I expect to see those guys, as far as our linebackers, get some sacks this year as well. So Caden Ellis, Michael Walker, T1000, and Troy Anderson, I expect those guys to actually chip in as well as be a part of that sack number. Because if you look at the New Orleans Saints, they use their linebackers to rush the passer as well. So I really feel like we're going to affect the line of scrimmage. That's what Ryan Nielsen's defense is all about, attacking the line of scrimmage. So I expect us to get those sack numbers, even if we have to bring pressure off the edge as well with safeties and stuff like that. The Saints were a team that will zero blitz you in a minute. So I definitely think that because Ryan Nielsen likes to play a lot of man-to-man coverage, and that's where that Clark Phillips pick comes in, because Clark Phillips is a great in man-to-man coverage. You have now guys that can man up. Jeff Okudah, AJ Terrell, Clark Phillips, all of these guys can play press man coverage. Now that you have that, you can take risk and actually bring pressure to heat up the quarterback. So I really expect this defensive line to get somewhere in that 40 sack range. And Hucklebuck 71 says, still look a little light in the wide receiver room. Are there any players out there for wide receiver that you see? It's a lot of guys still out there, but I really feel like the Falcons are okay where we currently sit. I do think that they'll probably bring in maybe one or two other wide receivers. Like, I recently seen that they signed a couple guys to come to training camp. So I definitely think that we may add some guys to this roster to compete at training camp. But I really feel like we're okay at the wide receiver position. I wouldn't mind us adding maybe like one or two guys, but I don't think it's going to be any splash signings, like any big name wide receivers coming to the Falcons at this point. I think the guys that they've been developing are going to have to step up. Like, guys like Frank Darby is going to have to take the next step. Guys like Jared Bernhardt, the guys that we already have on this roster, I really feel like those are the guys that could be the missing piece that can step up and possibly bring something to the table. But again, remember we're playing positionless football. So because we're playing that positionless football, you can kind of add Cordell Patterson's name to that wide receiving crew. You can add Kyle Pitts to the wide receiving crew, even though he's listed as a tight end. We're going to just label them as pass catchers. So if you think about just pass catchers on this team, you got Bijan Robinson, you got CP, you got Cordell Patterson, you got Kyle Pitts. So all of these guys are going to be used as like pass catchers. So we really can't even label guys like on our team as wide receivers because we play positionless football. So guys that normally like a Jonnu Smith that you label as a tight end, you kind of can say that he's a wide receiver. He fits that wide receiver room because of the way that Arthur Smith calls his offense. He pretty much uses his running backs, his tight ends. He pretty much uses all of his weapons as one. If man Mike's the screen pass will be a vital part of the offense. Oh, most definitely. Now that you added a guy like Bijan Robinson, a guy who can make you miss in space, you already have Cordell Patterson, and you have a solid offensive line. I definitely think that the screen game, is going to go to another level, especially because you got a guy like Bijan Robinson, who's a guy where you just put the ball in his hands and he's going to make something special happen. And let's see here. And I appreciate ATL Leo says the Super Bowl's in Vegas this year. So hopefully the Falcons will be at the Super Bowl this year. I know Vegas just built a new stadium a couple years ago. They got a really nice stadium, and that would be a nice Super Bowl to be able to go out to Vegas. But hopefully the Falcons get there. I mean, I definitely think that this Falcons team has a chance. I don't want to speak too early, but remember you heard it here first. May 3rd, 2023, we spoken into existence that the Falcons will make the Super Bowl. And let's see. And Brian People says, don't forget Timmy Horn. Yeah, I forgot about Timmy Horn. Like I said, man, this team is loaded. Like, really, to be honest with you, I think some of these guys are going to have to be on the practice squad. I don't see how they're going to be able to finesse all of these guys, stash all these guys on this roster on the defensive line. Because I can name like 10 guys unless you label some of the guys just as linebackers, like guys like AK and stuff like that, they're listed as outside linebackers. So maybe we can get away with keeping a lot of these guys, but I don't see a way where we're going to be able to keep everybody on this roster or everybody being able to dress out every Sunday. You may have some guys that's on the practice squad where you're going to have to elevate them if somebody gets injured. But Timmy Horn also played well for us last year. So that's going to be a really good competition, and it's going to be a hard 53-man roster to make. That's something that they've been stating, and I've been saying it the last couple weeks as well. After seeing the draft, like this is going to be a really, really tough 53-man roster to make. It's going to be real hard to cut down this roster to 53 men. And Brian People says, make sure y'all check out Desmond Ritter's interview on NBC Sports. He ready to take this team to the next level. His tone says it all, just like draft night. Yeah, I seen a recent interview. I don't know if this was the NBC interview, but I seen an interview this morning on my way to work. He was talking to, I think his name is Michael Smith. He used to do His and Hers podcast. I don't know if that's the interview you're talking about, Brian Peoples, but it was really, really solid. The interview that he did. I seen part of the interview, but Desmond Ritter was basically talking about, the draft, Bijan Robinson. He was talking about his childhood and things of that nature with him and his mom, and talking about being a father and stuff like that. So I definitely think that Desmond Ritter is a great leader, and he's ready to take, the bull by the horns, and it's his time. Like we've seen guys, we've seen quarterbacks be doubted. Last year, going into the season, I keep going back to Jalen Hurts of the Eagles. He was a guy that nobody believed in after his first 2 seasons with the Eagles. And last year, he had a big season, led them to the Super Bowl, and really he outplayed Pat Mahomes in that Super Bowl. So I definitely think Desmond Ritter could be a guy that definitely could surprise a lot of people this year. Let's see here. And I appreciate you guys' comments, man. It's a ton of comments. And we got 53 people in here. So somebody do a like check for me. I don't know how many people didn't hit that like button, but if you haven't hit the like button for your boy, please hit that like button for your boy. Help the algorithm. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for continuing to tune in every Wednesday night. And not just continuing to tune into my show, but continuing to tune into all the shows that we do weekly. Mad Mike and K Styles give y'all shows on Mondays, the Cooler Talk Mondays. K Styles give you shows on Tuesday nights as well. Him and Mike. Then I try to give you guys a show on Wednesday night, and then the AFN crew, they give you a show usually on Thursday nights as well. And then we have Friday Night Madness, and then on Sundays we had a regulator. So we try to give you guys Atlanta Falcons shows almost every day of the week. So shouts out to us. We definitely are the hardest working podcasters for the Falcons on YouTube. So definitely shouts out to the AFN crew. We definitely are the hardest working Atlanta Falcons crew. So, and shouts out to all the Atlanta Falcons podcasters. But y'all definitely continue to show us that love, man. And let's see here. So he said, what do you think about the linebacker lineup? So I'm still thinking that the Falcons are going to bring back Rashaan Evans. I keep saying that, and hopefully I can speak that into existence because it hasn't happened yet. But I really think that the Falcons was trying to wait until the dust settles and after the draft and things of that nature to see, because some players are still out there. You know, there's still a lot of free agents out there trying to sign with teams. So I do think that Rashaan Evans is a guy that they still might bring back. But I like Troy Anderson a lot. I like Caden Ellis as well. And we still have Michael Walker as well. So we have a pretty solid linebacking core. But I feel like to round out that linebacking core, I really think we should bring back Rashaan Evans because he was our leading tackler last year. He plays with that instinct. He has that veteran leadership, and he's been around the block a couple times. So he knows it's key things that veterans can teach you. There's nothing that can teach you like experience. And Rashaan Evans is a guy when he was in Tennessee that played in a lot of big football games. He was on that Tennessee Titans team that got to the AFC Championship game. So he's a guy that has a ton of experience when it talks about playing big time football. Between him playing at Alabama and winning championships there at Alabama, and then him coming into the league with Tennessee and then playing really well with us last year, I feel like you want to, keep at least one veteran guy in each room. So in that linebacking room, I still think that they're missing at least one veteran. Caden Ellis has been in the league a couple seasons, but I think Rashaan Evans, if we bring him back, he has the most experience, and he's a guy that you can use in the locker room and in film study and stuff like that. He's a guy that will help these young guys. To me, he will speed up their process as far as these guys developing. But I appreciate the question, and let's see here. And y'all definitely go show my boy Mad Mike some love. He said, I have a video dropping after the show. What to expect from the Falcons running game right after the show. So y'all definitely go check out Mad Mike's video. Like I said, man, we're going to keep pumping them videos out for you guys, man. So we always got some new content dropping. So definitely keep y'all eyes, stay tuned to each one of our channels. And he says, what up, Mad Mike? Great rant earlier. So y'all definitely also go check out Mad Mike's rant because I missed it earlier. So I'm going to have to watch it on the playback. And MacTown Dirty says, what it do? What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining tonight. I hope all is well with you. And Tony Wright, what's going on, man? He says, what's popping, Jew? As I'm late to your live stream, just to let you know, Kyle Pitts will stay at tight end for the Falcons. Most definitely. I mean, like I said, Kyle Pitts is a guy that you can play him anywhere. We list him as a tight end, but he's a weapon. You can call him Weapon X. He's used somewhere, everywhere. He's just a threat, pretty much. He's listed as a tight end, but he's really like him and Travis Kelce and a lot of the tight ends of today in today's NFL, they're listed as tight ends, but their masquerade basically their point. It's just like the point guards in the NBA. It's most of the guys that are point guards in the NBA are two guards, but they are listed at point guard. Same thing with Kyle Pitts. They list them at tight end, but we use them like a wide receiver. So tight end, wide receiver, whatever you want to call them. And John St. Clair says, do we still have Cordell Hodge? We did bring Cordell Hodge back. We brought him back on a 1-year deal. So he's another guy that's in that wide receiver room. So like I said, we have guys that we're developing. And to me, he played well when he got his opportunities last year. And he was great on special teams. So, yeah, we have weapons. And let's see. And I'm going to ask a few more questions before we wrap up for tonight. Let's see here. And Drew, he says, I can't wait to see 7 on the field rise up. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to get me a Bijan Robinson jersey. From what I heard, they sold out all those number 7 jerseys, but I'm definitely going to have to get my hands on one of those Bijan Robinson 7 jerseys. But definitely can't wait to see Bijan Robinson out there on the field. I definitely think he's going to be an electrifying player this season. All right, let's see. And I appreciate Bubba Gump said we got 31 likes. So I see 49 people in here. If I can get all 49 of y'all to hit that like button for your boy, the likes are free. Please hit that like button for your boy. Let's see here. So Tony Wright says, come on, folks. There are 53 of us in the chat, but only 29 of us have hit the like button. Hit the like button. Yeah, we don't want to hold the show hostage. Y'all please hit the like button for your boy. And Drew says Bijan Robinson, 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns. Bet. I mean, that would be crazy if he goes for 13 touchdowns. But the 1,300 yards, I could see that. 13 touchdowns would be crazy good. And I know all the fantasy owners right now are licking their chops. Can't wait to draft a guy like Bijan Robinson for the ones that actually play fantasy football. I know y'all licking y'all chops. And Brian People says Terry Fontenot in the interview said he not finished yet. Yeah, he not finished yet. He about to go sign Rashaan Evans. I said that a couple weeks ago when we cut Casey Hayward. I said, now take that Casey Hayward money. No shots at Casey Hayward. I love Casey Hayward. I wish him nothing but the best. But I said, take that Casey Hayward money that you cut and go ahead and use that to bring back my boy Rashaan Evans because he earned that new contract. Let's see. Man, y'all flooding the chat, man. I appreciate the love, man. Y'all really flooding the chat. Listen, my wife. Oh no, another jersey. Yeah, I'm sorry. I gotta add another one to the collection. Definitely got to get that Bijan Robinson jersey and a couple more jerseys to add to the collection, but definitely need that Bijan Robinson on deck. Let's see. And MacTown Dirty says, do you think Dion still has gas in the tank if he's still available? Are you talking about Deion Jones? I don't know what's going on with Deion Jones, man. It seemed like Deion Jones, after he left the Falcons, he was on the side of a milk carton, man. I know he was with the Cleveland Browns, and you guys know I love me some Deion Jones, but I don't think that the Falcons would backtrack and pick up a Deion Jones. I think that at this point, once that ship kind of sails, I don't see this regime as a type that they're gonna bring back a former player, unless it's a guy that was just like we're re-signing, like a Rashaan Evans that was on the team. I don't see them trading a guy because we literally traded Deion Jones away. So I don't see them going out and bringing him back because they traded him away. So that was like our decision. It won't like he walked in free agency. They literally got rid of Deion Jones. So I don't know how that would work. I mean, I would love to have Deion Jones back, but I think he has, something left in the tank though. I mean, he's still super young. I think he's still got to be like in his late 20s or maybe early 30s, if I'm not mistaken. Deion Jones is still a pretty young guy. So I definitely think he still has more in the tank, but I don't think that this team will backtrack, being that they traded him. And this is a hard question right here. Devon says, "What's your statistical prediction for Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson?" I'll say this: the Falcons are going to be a top 3 rushing team in the NFL. Y'all can mark my words on that. Keep the receipts on that one. But I don't know about the numbers so much. I think they'll be, like I said, a top 3 rushing team. Because last year I think we were top 5, if I'm not mistaken. We were a top 5 rushing team, if I'm not mistaken, last year. So this year they'll be top 3, definitely. As long as those guys stay healthy, I really think that this team is going to be a top 3 rushing team. With the way that we run the ball, and because we got a Bijan Robinson now on the team as well, and then now you have the 3-headed monster between CP, Algier, and Robinson. Yeah, that's probably the best trio in the NFL. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody tell me another trio that's better than Algier, Robinson, and Patterson. That's a tough 3-headed monster right there in the backfield. I can't name a better 3-headed monster. And D Sloan says, "What's good, Jew? I might be late, but what's your take on getting the safety from Bama?" Oh, I like Helms a lot. Yeah, the kid Helms that we got from Alabama, he was actually their leading tackler for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So Helms is one of those guys that was a captain of that defense, a guy that they call hit 'em Helms. So if your name is hit 'em, yeah, he's one of those guys that I think that is going to be one of those guys that opponents are going to fear. If you will come across the middle, Helms is a guy that's looking to lay the wood on you, and he's one of those guys that he's a do-it-all safety, but I definitely think that he was a steal in the 7th round. We got him in the 7th round. So for us to get a high quality, safety in the 7th round, I definitely think that he was a great pickup, and I definitely can see him being like a guy that they use like similar to like a box safety. I really think that he could be one of those guys that can come down in the box and play like a little bit of linebacker or a hybrid linebacker in certain situations, like on 3rd down. If you don't feel comfortable keeping the linebackers on the field, like a Caden Ellis or a Troy Anderson, and you want to play a guy, because we have so many good safeties, like at this point, we have 4 solid safeties. You have Hawkins still on this team, Richie Grant, Jesse Bates, and now Helms. With those 4 guys, you can play some 3 safety sets, and then in some instances, maybe even all 4 safeties on the field, depending on the offense, what they have out there on the field. But Helms is a guy that I really think is like a heat-seeking missile. He's a guy that likes to hit. He's a guy I think you're going to be able to play in the box, and he's a very smart player. But I definitely think that was a great steal for the Atlanta Falcons. One of the better picks in the draft. Both him and Clark Phillips, I think those were 2 picks that, those guys definitely shouldn't have dropped to where they dropped to. I feel like Phillips definitely shouldn't have dropped to where he dropped to. He was like 100. He was picked like 100 something. And then Helms definitely, he dropped almost he almost didn't get drafted. So I definitely think that he was a steal for the Falcons. And let's see here. Tony Wright says we will resign Rashaan Evans, who was 4th in the NFL in tackles in 2022. Yeah, I'm gonna keep speaking it until they sign him again. I'm gonna keep speaking it into existence. But I definitely think that Rashaan Evans is a guy that you should bring back. Like if you look at the guys that we brought back that was on 1-year prove-it deals, Lorenzo Carter, the first year when we had Cordero Patterson, pretty much all of the guys that we brought in that actually produced on those 1-year deals. Terry Fontenot kept his word and brought him back. So, excuse me, I definitely think that Rashaan Evans deserves another contract. Like the way that he played last year for our Falcons team, Michael Walker wasn't getting the job done at that Mike linebacker position. He didn't have the experience. Rashaan Evans, when he took over at that Mike linebacker position, we start seeing things, start shaking. Rashaan Evans is one of those guys that's kind of like I was talking about Helms. He's a downhill linebacker. He's going to hit anything that's moving. So Rashaan Evans is a tone setter. So I definitely like him to come back on this Falcons team. And there it goes. Mike says, I love Deion Jones. I would love to have Deion Jones back, but I don't see the Falcons backtracking. Yeah, once the Falcons traded him, it was a wrap. Yeah, once you get traded, it ain't no coming back for you. Like, I would be really surprised if they tried to bring him back. And I'm gonna answer a few more questions, and then we're gonna wrap it up because it is 9:05. So I'll answer maybe two more questions, and then I'm gonna give you guys your night back. But if you guys want to talk a little bit of NBA talk as well, maybe next week on the show we'll do a little bit of NBA talk as we wrap up the show. But it's been some very interesting in the NBA playoffs. The Lakers and Warriors. That's a really, really good matchup. It's been a lot of interesting games. So if you guys want to hear me talk a little bit about the NBA as well and the NBA playoffs, maybe we'll do that in our next show towards the end of the show. But I'll put a poll on my community tab. So if you guys want to talk NBA, a little bit of NBA playoffs, being that the NBA playoffs is going on, like during one of the shows, I'll do that either towards the beginning of the show or towards the end of the shows when we're doing Q&A if you guys want to talk NBA as well. But let's see. And shouts out to my boy Andrew G. He says, "What's up?" He said, "I missed it. Had to work till now. It's no big deal, man. I appreciate you joining late, man. You can watch it on the playback, but that's definitely one of the members. So shouts out to you, man. I appreciate you being a part of my membership, man. Shouts out to you." And let's see. And Eric, what's going on, man? You jumped in as well. I didn't get to say what's happening. What's going on? I appreciate you joining. And Devon says, do you see Jonnu Smith getting some carries as well? I know we got CP, Bijan, and Tyler, but do you see him getting in some jet sweeps? Most definitely. Like, I really think that this is going to be a very creative offense. Like, I know a lot of people say that Arthur Smith isn't a creative mind, and basically Calais Campbell shot down those talks of Arthur Smith not being a guy that's creative. He talked about when he was in Jacksonville, playing against the Titans when Arthur Smith was their offensive coordinator. He said that Arthur Smith's offenses was one of the hardest to figure out and was one of the hardest offensive schemes to stop. So I definitely think that you're going to see a lot of creative stuff with this Atlanta Falcons offense this year, especially in the run game and the pass game, because you have a ton of weapons now. So you're not going to know who's going to get the ball week in and week out. The game plan is going to change weekly. One thing you can bet your bottom dollar on is that this Falcons team is going to be physical. This Falcons team is going to run the ball because we know that we're a run-first team, and we're physical in the trenches. But I wouldn't be surprised if they hand the ball or toss the ball or did a jet sweep with a guy like Jonnu Smith because of his versatility. And Tony Wright says, "Hey, Jew, the only former Atlanta Falcon that has had success after leaving Atlanta has been Devondre Campbell, who has become a two-time Pro Bowler and two-time All-Pro in Green Bay 2020 and 2021. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. And to be honest, the Falcons probably would have kept Devondre Campbell if they had the money at the time to keep him, but they decided to pay Deion Jones, which I thought Deion Jones was the better of the two linebackers because of his ability to cover. Devondre Campbell, when he was with the Atlanta Falcons, he had a pretty good, a couple good seasons actually with the Atlanta Falcons, but he was more of a downhill linebacker. He didn't really fit in that Dan Quinn scheme of, that cover three, playing a lot of cover three where you had to sit back on your heels a lot and try to cover. It's built for linebackers that are coverage linebackers in that cover three. Whereas when he played with the Packers, he had better seasons because he was able to play downhill, and the Packers are good in the trenches. The Packers have a lot of good defensive linemen. So I definitely think agree with that. But Devondre Campbell definitely was a guy that had success when he left the Falcons. But with that being said, I'm going to get ready to wrap it up for the night, man. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys for your continued support. Definitely hit that like button. Definitely hit that subscribe button for your boy. I'm gonna have a lot more content coming for you guys. Like I said, stay tuned for those spotlight videos on those draft picks. The next video I'll be doing will be on Zach Harrison, the defensive end out of Ohio State that we drafted. But I'll have a spotlight video for each one of our draft picks. But with that being said, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, not just on my channel here at Jew Talk Sports. Go over to the heavy hitters, Mad Mike, K Styles. Go over to AFN. Go hit that like and subscribe button there as well. And go check out Mad Mike's video that he'll be dropping immediately after my show as well, about the Atlanta Falcons in the running game with Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. But with that being said, this been your boy Jew. I appreciate you guys. I'll holler at you guys in our next live show, or What's the Word, which is next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. But as always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed. Peace.